Hello and welcome to our second edition of the Development Show in 2022. I don't know what happened to last year, and I keep saying last year rather than, and I mean 2020. It seems so long ago. But I want to welcome and thank Calvin Lawrence for joining us today. Calvin is absolutely fantastic. I have a lot to learn from him, and I hope you do too. And we'll get out what we can from him, and hopefully we can reveal a few secrets about development and things. So, Calvin, if you'd like to introduce yourself, because I'm sure you can do it far better than I can.
Well, I might be able to do it better, Greg, but I try to be humble and I don't try to say too much. So I'll do the best I can, try to walk that tightrope. So, folks, I'm Calvin Lawrence. I'm a lifetime educator. I've worked in education in the United States here I'm coming up on 39 years. So I'm looking forward to the 40th year of interacting in educational systems and whatnot. But for sure, I have worked in our public school K-12 system, as well as when I finished officially in an official role, the higher ed capacity, working at a university and at the college level. And Greg has kind of looked through some of my things. I've been everything from teacher, coach, administrator, athletic director, dean, a little bit of everything. I said in education, I've done everything except drive the bus and cook the food in the cafeteria. And they probably didn't want me cooking the food. I can eat it, but I'm probably not the greatest cook. So a lot of things in that arena. The subject that we're going to talk about kind of delves right into what I've done and what I like to do and what I want to continue to do. And so when Greg, you asked me to be on the show, I was excited about it just from that standpoint. So I hope that gives you a little bit. Oh, I'm in Texas. Texas is home now. I originally was born in Virginia, but when you marry a Texan, they say you don't leave Texas. So I've been in Texas now for 33 years. So enjoying it.
You have to say that, though. You have to say
I have to say that. I got to give her that.
You've got to go home tonight.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
No, it's fantastic. No, just reading through a bit of your bio, there is some great diversity there, and I'd say that there is still time in your life to drive that bus and to cook that meal.
Okay, thanks.
You might not be thanked for it, but there's still time. We all have to have hopes and ambitions.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it's fascinating that everything that you have done. To me, there's definitely two kind of purposes, and a lot of it is, as you say, education.
Yes.
But also giving to people. I don't think you can actually go into education and work your way up without caring about the people that you're educating. It's quite hard because I guess you have to balance that education and helping with a business aspect as well, because of funding. And I'm going to show you some of these comments we're getting, Calvin, because I don't want to put any pressure on you.
I don't put any pressure on me, because who knows who's out there.
We've got this one.
What? Oh,
get ready for some inspiration.
That's one of my role models right there.
I'll show you what else she said.
Oh my goodness! Oh,
Calvin is in the house.
Yeah, she's trying to get me hyped up. She's a hype girl. Yeah.
Oh dear. We've got the master is talking.
Oh no, I couldn't. Oh my goodness. I've got a I always say I'm a cheerleader, Greg, but it looks like I'm starting to get a little cheer section there. So watch out.
Yeah. Where was the other one? There was there was one other one. We could do a whole show on this. The Calvin fan club, I think.
No. Oh no! Oh, inspiration.
So there's no pressure whatsoever. I'll leave you on this. I'll leave you on this one.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. She just shot me. I've got an arrow in the heart. Oh my goodness.
This. I'll tell you what. This is one of the great things about being able to go live, that
Yeah.
you can get that interaction. And thank you so
Yes.
much for
Yeah.
everyone who's commented so far. And
You're right.
you know,
And
we
this,
can
hey,
talk about very serious subjects, and it's nice to kind of inject a little bit of
yes.
fun and make the guest a little bit uncomfortable.
That's great. Great.
So let's get into it. Let's get into development. Obviously,
Yes.
your angle is very much on education.
Yes.
You know, there is a famous saying that says that the answer to every single question is education.
I like that saying. Who
I
said it?
don't know. I'll have to find it out for you.
We'll have to find. Yeah, remember,
so
you're
true.
that guy. You have to find out. So if you find
Can
out, share with me.
Can I claim it?
Yeah, you can. You're the host of the show.
I expect to see it on a LinkedIn post tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
But it is, and you know, it's one of those quotes that it's so simple, and
Yes.
I took a while and I thought about it, and when we come across questions, and we see them on LinkedIn, and here's a challenge for everyone listening. Next time you're on social media and you see people asking questions, ask yourself, is the answer education?
Oh, that's a good one.
So that is going to be your first thought. So when people come up with questions and just go, is the answer education? And I'm a strong believer in it. My personal story that I've shared a few times was I left school with very few qualifications. I thought it wasn't for me. I wasn't a learner.
Yes.
And I started in engineering at 18. And then after a while, I realized it wasn't that I wasn't capable of learning. It wasn't that education wasn't for me. Right. It was a case of finding the subjects that I cared about, that I was passionate about.
Right.
Yes. And since then, you know, I kind of worked my way through and ended up in a senior management role. And this is through very little formal education. This is through self-education. This is through experience and knowledge and learning how to show that. And if I could go back and do my time again, I probably would have left school again at the age that I did, knowing what I did, because I knew it wasn't for me, but I would have pursued different avenues, which I'm guessing, you know, in your roles at college and university levels, that is what you find. Is that important, that your students are finding that passion, or is it sometimes a means to an end?
Oh, Greg, it is so important. It's funny you should say that, because and you're making me think about development differently than I've ever thought about it before. But the passion part is so important. And I could run that gamut from early elementary school, the early in maybe in your country it's the early primaries, to the collegiate level. That if you don't find the passion, then what's the use? What's the purpose of education? Why am I even here? And so what I've always tried to do, and sometimes I didn't even know what I was doing, was trying to find, I would say, the light bulb. The light bulb goes on. If I can spark a flame, what is it that this person likes, and what can we talk about that really piques your interest? I'll give you one quick one, and I'll get out and let you talk again.
Had it's a student fan club here, Calvin, not mine. They're here for you. They're here for you.
Well, I had a student in high school who was the kind of student who could have been an easy dropout. But it's funny I could tell this story because he loved to cook. So he wanted to be a chef. And what I tried to do from that day forward was to try to find cooking schools, culinary schools, where he could do. And you talk about someone, it just kind of flipped the bulb from night to day. He was so excited after that point. And let me throw this in too while I'm thinking about it. when you said self-education, and down here somewhere I have a little note about degrees, and I'm going to talk about that in terms of development. But it really doesn't matter how you do it in terms of development, as long as you develop. So there's so many different avenues. Wow. You just kind of blew the door open in terms of my thinking processes. There are so many different avenues, but you've got to pursue. And it's kind of like, if once you can connect that person with whatever it is that is their purpose to be here in life, that they're passionate about, then great things happen. I think what we do in too many places is disservice, is that we try to track people into one maybe career path or one way of doing things, and that it doesn't work for a lot of folks. Just like you just got through saying.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and that's a great story about that that person wanting to be a chef, because the way my mind works is that if that's their passion and that's what they want to pursue, there's so many other factors that come into it.
Yes.
Do they eventually want their own restaurant? Do they want to run their own kitchen? So you're bringing in business, you're bringing in teamwork, you're bringing in auditing, you're bringing in taxations, and some of these things they won't be passionate about, but you can link it back to their passion and say, well, actually, if you want to pursue your passion, you have to do the hard stuff.
Right.
And the hard stuff of being the stuff that you really don't want to do.
Yes.
But it adds to your passion. It's the same as me, that my passion is for helping people, and it's helping people to develop. But I know I've got to learn how to use. We'll talk about Canva. I know I've got to learn how to use Canva. I know that I've got to learn how to return my taxes. Yes. I know that I've got to learn, kind of stuff that I've never ever learned before. But it draws back in. I mean, one thing that I like doing, and I've done it for myself and I've done it for clients and things, is to draw a big circle with your passion in the middle. Oh, wow. and then link everything that you have to do to it.
To that.
And it is very powerful, because you can have days and you go, I don't want to do my tax returns today.
Yes.
I've got to get them done. I've got a deadline. I need to get it done. And you go, oh, I'll just put that off. And you can then pull this out and go, actually, that is part of my passion.
Right.
And it's really, really interesting to try and make things work. There was a great book that I read by I've got names. We've been talking about books just off there. Think Like a Monk, Jay Shetty.
Okay.
And he was talking about Dharma, and he was talking about passion and finding it. And I was just like, wow, this is interesting, because he wasn't talking about how to make money from your passion. It was talking about life fulfillment.
Right.
And actually, finding that thing that you love, and then trying to connect everything to it that you can.
Yes.
So if your passion is for, I don't know, let's pick something out of the sky. So your passion's for being stupid and jumping out of airplanes at 10,000 foot with a parachute on. Never, you'll never catch me doing it. I'd rather go down with a plane. But and it's just like, well, what can you link to that? Well, you're not good enough. You're never going to be an instructor. It's just a hobby. It's just something you love doing.
Right.
And then you link to it and say, well, actually, I need to go to work because I need to earn that money to do this.
Right.
Or I need to find some extra time. So how can I organize my life better so I can, what time management tips can I learn and kind of develop so I can create a little bit more time for me to go and do this,
right?
Twice a month rather than once a month.
Right.
And it is, and I think you can link everything we do. Once you find your passion, once you find what is fulfilling you, you can link so much to it, and then everything has a purpose to it.
Right.
And I think that, when we're very disjointed in our lives, that we could end up living two or three. And I mean, I'm guilty. I'll put my hand up. I'm guilty of that. I was probably living at least two lives, if not three. And not on purpose. There was the me that was at home with the family.
Yes.
There was the me that was at work, which was a
Right.
different representation.
Right.
And then there was the me that was going up the gym and going out running and raising money for charity. But they weren't linked.
Right.
They weren't linked at all, and I ended up feeling a little bit lost, and especially when work, raised the stress level, and then it was like, well, I'm finding it hard to switch between who I need to be in those set hours, in those set days, and again, to me, this is development, and it is bringing it in, and it was like, okay, so I'm stressed at work. I've always played sports until I got a couple of bad injuries, and then it was gym, running, and things like that, and it was just like, well, hang on a minute, I'm getting stressed at work. I know that my headspace is exercise.
Right.
So rather than trying to find time to go and exercise and be that third person, I was like, well, actually, this adds to this. And it kind of just kind of developed that way through it, which I find sometimes people are very disconnected from certain aspects of their lives. I mean, I'm guessing that you live and breathe kind of education and development of other people.
Yes.
Your passion obviously comes through. So what kind of areas of what would you say should we pick a number? Let's pick 3. Let's put you under pressure. I'm sure your fan club will appreciate this. But 3 key areas of development do you think that people need?
Perfect. You set me up. It's almost like what's the comedian, the piece where you have the front guy or whatever. So I got the 3. And I was thinking about it when we first started talking about development, and it's so good because when you said this, they can be disconnected, but they need to be linked. And so I put a link to all 3. So the 3 for me in terms of development are my mind, my body, and my spirit. 3 areas that I have to, if they're all connected, and they are, and they're all functioning at a really high level, wow, I am at my top most. But let me give you for instance. So right before the new year, some of my friends who are picking at me right now know this. I had a flu, not COVID, but flu bad, and I hadn't been down with anything for probably over 2 years. I think I avoided colds because of COVID and some of the other stuff, but I came down. So my spirit was probably okay, but my mind as well. But they were both affected because physically I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get out. There were a couple of days, Greg, where I couldn't even get out of the bed. I was just like, I get up, didn't have an appetite. And that is, anybody who knows me knows how much I love food. And if I don't have an appetite, I'm really miserable. But then that makes everything else miserable. And hopefully maybe I did make people around me miserable. You'd have to ask them. But just one of those being out of sync caused everything else to kind of falter a little bit. But hey, on the flip side of it, as I've come back, as my health has come back, my body's right. I'm doing what you just got through doing. I keep my gym routine going. In the morning, there's spiritual things I do, meditate, whatever. And then there's always a mental, I need to get on the book trail again like you are, because you're reading some good stuff. But those 3 things, and if I'm at my very best, which I want to be because I want to help other people, and my friends always say that I have that I call my mentors, if you don't pour into yourself, you can't pour into others. So I always want to pour in to make sure I'm at my developed best, because if I can do that, then I can do the other things for the other folks. So going back, just to rephrase those 3 things, if they are at a high level, and even if they're not, I'm working on all 3, and I know they coexist. I know that they touch on each part of me. And when they're all at their best, that's when I know I'm at my best.
Yeah, I think I think you've hit the three key factors. I really do, and you know, I'm a very big advocate for a balanced life.
Yes.
People talk a lot about work-life balance, but to me, when you're talking about work-life balance, you're then automatically separating work and life.
Yes. Yeah, you are.
And
You are. You're putting them in on two different shelves. You're
yeah,
right.
yeah, you kind of touched on something that the spiritual aspect is something that's not often talked about, and when we look at the body holistically,
yes,
I'm absolutely fascinated, and this is going slightly off topic, and
but we said we might do
it's
that.
what these shows. I warned you, this is a conversational show. It's not a question and answer session, but
Right.
you know, when we look at spiritual, you mentioned meditating, which is something I used to do, which I haven't done so much, but I know it's in my mind that I need to get back to it. Because obviously there's many different forms of meditation. I think my meditation is getting up early.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to say this out loud, checking social media, and drinking coffee.
Oh,
And I don't want to say that out loud. I'll get the haters and don't go on your phone for the first hour and get up. But it works for me. It works for me. But the one thing, the kind of the spiritual side, what is fascinating to me is, and I've spoken to many people of many different religions about faith, and not necessarily about the faith that they have in their God, but the strength and the feeling of faith
that comes from
yes. And I find that an absolutely fascinating subject, because you know, people will use words like you're confident, or you're I'm trying to think of nice words. You know, even people say, "Oh, you're bordering on arrogance." You're, you know, and I'm like, well, actually, is it confidence or is it faith in yourself?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and this is why faith for me is a fascinating subject, and you know, and I don't want to get into religious conversations.
I hear you. I hear you. That might be a conversation for another live, and we could do that at another time. Yes. Yeah.
But it's confidence to have that faith in something, and I find it absolutely fascinating. I think it's a great subject matter that I need to explore a lot more before I can actually talk about it too much. And it's not that I'm shying away from religions, and you know, I've learned so much about many different religions, and it's absolutely fascinating. I find the different religions absolutely fascinating, but they all come down to the same things, really. Be a good person, help other people, and that's the underlying, you know, and that's certainly a message that we can take. You touched on a word that kind of that pricked my ears up a little bit, because it's conversations I've been having lately. You said you called your friends your mentors.
Yes.
Now I know I'm guessing what you mean is kind of like a sounding board for ideas and open, frank, and honest discussions with them.
But let me throw this in too with you, Greg, because that's part of it. But if I take it to the level of mentor, I take it to a higher level in terms of just being a sounding board. Is someone who I really, and I'll use the T word, trust, because I'm not going to listen to anyone. But the ones that I'll listen to, and some of them are on the screen, they know that I've called on them. I will take it to that next level. And I know we're going to get to this at some point, my future and what I'm looking for in terms of some things. But one of those things, Greg, is to be much more of a mentor to others. I have I think this ties into your last question and maybe a question prior to that. I have a young man who is it was something that you said earlier about there are people who are, you said it, a guy in the warehouse might be looking at where I'm at right now. He wants to get there eventually. Well, a mentor can assist someone and help them not only get there maybe a little bit sooner than they would on their own, but also help them overcome obstacles, whether they be financial, whatever. So I have a gentleman, and I'm not just sharing this to make myself feel great, because I have so many great mentors. And but I'm talking to a young man, and I think we may even go to lunch this weekend, but he's wanting to get into education, and he's at the bare minimum level, I think, what we would call in the States here. Doesn't have a teaching degree yet. So I'm going to purposely really do more than just encourage, because I think that's the sounding board, but I'm going to make it an intentional piece in terms of mentoring and working with him and talking to people and getting him to that point maybe a little bit sooner than he would, because I know several things. I know he would be great because he said something that you said earlier. He loves children. He has a passion for this. He just has had some things have happened to him in the past that have delayed his development. But we're going to expedite that development in terms of some things, because I do have some connections. One of the things about being older, I won't say old, is that you have networks now of people that I can pick up the phone and they'll say, oh yeah, Calvin. They won't always say Dr. Lawrence, they'll say Calvin. Yes. And I can do that, and I can kind of smooth the way for this young man. He's a great one. But what I also want to do in the time that I have left is to continue to be as much of a mentor to others as I can, because I think it's a wonderful thing. And I'm seeing it. There was a time in this country that we didn't call them mentors. It was just something that people did. I think that the old would help the young. But now it's got to be, it's almost like, you put a term on and you say mentorship. And in my opinion, it's a little bit more than just there. It's a little bit more. And so anyway, I hope that makes some sense.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think there's some very much confusion of what a mentor is.
Yeah.
And because it has so many different connotations to it.
Yes.
And someone actually asked me the other day, and I kind of summed it up and said, it's almost a father figure.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
To some degree. Well, to a large degree, you're taking an interest in someone's development.
Right.
You're doing what I can, what you can to help that development.
Yes.
But you're not doing it for them.
Correct.
That's you're showing them options. I will help you with whatever option, but it's your option. It's your choice.
It's your option. If you choose to do that.
Yeah. Yes. Which is it's really interesting, because we talk quite often about the difference between a coach and a mentor, and
yes,
it kind of crosses over a little bit, but not. It's something that I have to make that distinction of. So I want to ask you a difficult question.
Okay, I'm ready.
So I'm quite big. I love the mentoring, and the people that know me will know that I will. I never sell coaching. I always offer coaching to people, and that's a big thing. And people who know me know that I'm quite happy to have a chat and give them some pointers and connect with someone that could possibly help with them. It's not all, if you're talking to me, I'm selling to you kind of conversations.
Right.
And one thing that I'm very passionate about, which I think gets missed a lot, is reverse mentoring. And it's a term that I came across a few years back, and I was like, actually, yeah. I mean, I was sat in senior management, and I hired this young lad who, I'm trying to think, he was maybe 22. I mean, this is only a few years back. So I was mid-40s. He was 22. And I trained him and mentored him. And then he started teaching me things.
Yes.
And I was like, this is what reverse mentoring is. We all come in with different skills, different experiences. I mean, you know, in my mid-40s, you know, I remember times before the internet. I
Yeah.
remember it used to be dial-up, and
Yes.
you know, and now suddenly, you know, my daughter's, you know,
Yeah.
she knows how to use a phone. She's
Right.
7, laptops,
Right.
phones, you know, because that's what she's grown up with. So
Right.
what are the what kind of things have you learned from that kind of reverse mentorship? We're
Well,
gonna test your age now, but yeah,
you
we're
will.
gonna.
You will in a way, and when you heard, and I heard you say in the 40s, and in the folks that I didn't say this in the intro, but I'm 62, so I'm before, I want to say before dial up. Someone, one of my friends teases me because I played American football, and he says, "Okay, so you play in the time before they had face masks, right? You had that leather helmet and whatnot." And you look at my head and you probably think, yeah, he probably did have a leather helmet. I don't go back that far, but when it comes to this question and when it comes to this statement about, and I didn't have the term, but it's a beautiful term, because I'll say it this way: if you are coaching or educating or working with someone, if you're not open to learning from them as well, then something is wrong. There's a disconnect there. There's not the true connection, because anyone who has taught a class and taught it well, if they teach it well, they should be open to ideas and suggestions from the people that they're teaching. And in some cases, they may be much younger, but it really doesn't matter. I think where it matters for some folks is the pride issue, where, oh yeah, I'm the instructor and you are the person who, and I think we're evolving. Hopefully as a people, we're learning that that's not the way it's supposed to be. In fact, Greg, I'll throw it onto leadership. So if you're a leader, and of course a teacher's a leader, a coach is a leader. If you're a leader and you're not willing to learn from the people that you're leading, oh, I've got a great one. The girl that threw out, that gets the first 2 blurbs, Kelly Merbler, is that type of a leader. She's willing to learn. She's open to learn. She is, the word is vulnerable enough to learn. And you don't have to be vulnerable, but if you are intentionally vulnerable, you will learn, and you'll learn more and faster than you would if you just tried to do it your own way. You kind of set me up too earlier when you said, I have these people, but if I let this thing work through the people instead of me trying to do it all myself, it's a better product in the end. And that's the same way with the person who, in my case, has been that way as far back as I can remember. When I'm open to learning from them, we all learn. We all learn more. And here's the deal too. And I'll stop for a bit. That once the trust becomes, I trust you, you trust me. Oh, you trust me to teach you or to mentor, to help you, and vice versa. Then all these avenues open, and the relationship is better, and the trust is way up here instead of way down here. I don't see any negatives, and so it's a beautiful concept, and I hope more people are aware that if they allow themselves to, that's the best way, the best method. The reverse mentoring is something that it should be across the board.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. There was there's kind of interesting. I just want to pop this comment up because I can kind of add to this. No, I'm not
Age is
going to.
not
I'm
a
not going to
determining
embarrass you
factor. Who is
anymore.
that? Yeah. We can learn a lot from children.
But age is not a determining factor. We can
It is
learn a lot
not.
from
It is
children.
not. It is not. Right. And maybe that was a, I want to say, older school or older way of thinking, that if I'm here, you're down here, but it shouldn't be the determining factor. And even in the reverse, you said it, your daughter has grown up with technology. It's kind of like air for her. For some of us, we have to. It's a hassle. It's a chore, and they can help us through those things if we allow them to. I know when I first started playing video games with my son, it was difficult, but he had all the shortcuts and sometimes the cheat notes too. But he had all the and I learned faster and I enjoyed the game more and I think he enjoyed it because we were enjoying it together.
Yeah, yeah, you're so right. It's what we have to do is, I think, when you're talking about vulnerability,
Yes.
when you're talking about reverse mentoring, we have to allow people to come and do this. And I think what's important is that we also set those personal boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So, like when younger people, I feel like I'm at the age I can talk about younger people now. Which is quite sad.
It's sad.
But it is, one of the boundaries I put up is like, if I'm going to help you, then you're going to help me. I'm not going to allow you to do things for me without me learning.
Without me learning. Gotcha.
And that's one of, sometimes we discuss boundaries as no.
Yes,
it's a hard
negative.
no.
Right. Hard
as
no.
Negative. But actually,
yes.
we can put some positive boundaries in and say, if I'm going to learn from a 20-year-old on how to I don't know, use Canva is something we talked about. If someone's going to show me, then I'm not going to say, oh, it's just going to be easier if you do it because it's taking hours. It's going to be. So that's my boundary. I've left this comment up because I want to. I have a great little story that I thought I was doing pretty well, and then my daughter taught me something. She was 6 at the time. Now, I've worked very hard on dropping bias and prejudice and not just mine, but other people's. And certainly in a workplace, I'm very conscious of the words that we use, of what we say, that it might not, I could say something to you and it's not going to be offensive to you, but that there's people watching us and some of those people might be offended.
Right. Correct.
So I'm very aware of that. And I thought I was doing quite well with this, and until a couple of years ago, and I was walking my daughter back from school, and there's a shop with a nice big car park, and then there's some other shops without a car park. Now, someone had parked on the pavement on the sidewalk rather than the car park, and my daughter said, "Daddy, why are they parked there? We can't walk past." And I went, "Well, you know what some people are like. 10 yards is too far to walk." And I was basically saying, because they're too lazy to park in the car park. And she said, "But what if they've got a bad leg? What if they have to use a wheelchair? What if?" And I was like, yeah, that's a lesson for me there, isn't there? Not just to jump straight into because they're too lazy, and it's when we open ourselves up to learning from children, it is fantastic, because life is very simple.
Yes, it is.
It is. We won't get it as simple as that.
No, never.
Where's
again.
my food? Where are my toys? What am I doing tomorrow? Not what am I doing next week? What am I doing next month?
That's right.
What are we doing tomorrow?
Correct.
And life is just so simple. And I think there's so many lessons in there for us.
I agree.
And it kind of it does. I think as we get older, life gets more complicated. We overthink things. We know too many things, and we try and do too much with life. And I say that this all comes back to that connection of where does this actually fit in. I was talking to someone a while back about everything that I do coaching wise and social media platforms I'm on, and a couple of online publications I write for, and they were like, "Wow, how do you find time to do all this?"
Right.
And I'm like, because it all feeds into my passion. It all feeds into development, my development, and whoever wants to read and watch.
Right.
Awesome. So where do we see you heading with your development at 62? because it's obvious that your passion is there, and what you do, and when you're talking about balancing mind, body, and spirit as well, it's I think that keeps you very young as well, and
so.
kind of full of life, and even those are kind of linked. So where do we see your development heading? You've already mentioned that you want to mentor some more people.
I want to mentor. Yes. I want to, Greg, and I've put this out there, even in the midst of the COVID travel restriction piece and all of that. But I really would like to travel the world, and I know I mentioned the UK and Europe, but there are other countries as well that I would love to be able to go and speak, to be able to talk, to be able to share, to do seminars. That's a goal of mine. Some of my role models, my mentors, are doing just that very thing, and I want to be able to do that. Going back to the passion, because I believe it's a passion of mine, is travel and eating. So along with going to speak and all the different various foods of different cultures, oh my goodness, to be able to go in and impart something to have an impact, to travel, and to get I guess I'll add the monetary, to get paid for it. I don't know that it's almost like heaven on earth. So I'm hoping that those things will occur, that as I continue to branch, I continue to grow, as I continue to develop my business, which right now is a one-man show, but I add to that. So you mentioned you have 10 people working for you, and I have this vision of, and you made a joke about income tax returns and all the things that go along with running a business. And I know those are just like you. Those aren't the things that it's like rah, get real excited about, but then you tie it back into, but I can have an impact. I can impact families. I know families that are right in my area, in my sphere, and people who could be some of my first workers, and I could take care of them. I have all these visions of Christmas and then taking them. I know some entrepreneurs who have taken their staff on vacations in the Caribbean or wherever. And so, if that's my future, so be it. I'm looking forward to it. But those are some things that I think about, and I don't think they're far reach. I know that I've come so far in the last year and a half in terms of trying to work as my own boss and doing things the way I'd like to do, as opposed to working within a system. And I know that the next year I should see some huge increases. So I don't think that's a pie in the sky kind of a vision. I think that's the vision that I have for me, and I'm excited to get there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that we talked about it on one of the other shows the end of last year, and we talked about having destinations.
Yes.
Directions.
Yes.
And destinations, rather than goals and set achievements, because sometimes we talked a lot about setting yourself up for success rather than failure. So you can set a goal and life changes,
right,
and you then don't complete that goal,
right,
but you failed because you've set it. So what you're talking about, I can hear, and so that's why I said destinations. I'm thinking, if you come through Europe, you're picking me up on the way through. And
we can do that.
Yeah. We can do that. Yeah, I've got some invites for India and places. We'll be fine. And what you're talking about is a destinational journey, whether you ever reach that final destination, but certainly that direction. And I think that is so critical, because pulling it kind of back to development, I think one of the key areas of development is the versatility and the flexibility in our lives.
Yes.
And that is something that we need to deliver. And it's so hard when society's expectations are such that even when you're 4 years old, 3 years old, 2 years old, that society has an expectation on how fast you learn, what you learn.
Yes.
And I understand that to a certain point, we've got to make sure children are at certain levels by the time they reach certain age. So I'm not dissing that. I'm just saying that, that is one aspect of development.
Yes.
And there are other aspects as well. But the society expectations is that you get an education, you get a job, you get married, you have children, you are happy with your life. That even if you're not happy, you've got to tell people you're happy. And these are kind of the societal expectations of people, and there's so many ways of achieving those that and I think that when we have that destination, but as part of our development, we know that we aren't set in stone. We're not walking along one particular path to get there. And you might want to go off just exploring in the woods for a while.
Correct. Yes.
Metaphorically and physically.
Right.
I tell you what, this one of the things I'd love to do. I don't have a very big bucket list, but I'd love to come over to the US and go and spend some time in a log cabin and go back to nature, which is something I did a few years ago. I spent a bit of time, a few days in Yosemite Valley.
Yes.
In an old wooden cabin. That scared me. I didn't scare me, but when the guy said, "Oh yeah, the bins are there. Make sure the bolts and they're shut down because the bears will come out of the woods and find the food." And I was there going, "Oh, okay, yeah, bears." Then obviously a couple of beers that night. I was thinking, "There's bears." I'm sat outside in the dark at midnight, and there's bears walking the woods. We don't get that in the UK. Yeah, I'd love to do that. Spend a bit more time and and kind of get back to nature and. While we can do it in the UK to a certain degree, we don't have the expanse of land.
Yes.
That's certainly one thing I'd love to do at some point. So kind of the question you've talked about is how can we help you?
How can you help me?
And not just me. I'm talking about it.
Yes, and everybody on the screen.
Kind of
Well, I tell you, I guess, and this is probably the toughest question you have asked me, because when I've gotten this question before, I should be prepared for it, but it's usually, you can help me by being, again, a sounding board. You can help me by being a mentor. You can help me by spreading the word that I'm out here and I'm hopefully pretty good at what I do. If you can help me in those ways, and then of course, when I do get to the UK, we can spend that time together and eat some good food. You help me by making sure I get to the right restaurants. That's it. That's all I need. And just the encouragement. I think the one thing too that has been great for me in social media does have some hangups, but one of the great things about it has been this support system, the network that I have been able to tap into. And so people have supported me, and they will say that I'm a positive influence on them, but really I feel like it's the reverse. They kept me to where I don't have a down day. And even if the days aren't the greatest, I know that somebody may need me or may need a comment from me or may need a call from me or whatever. And I'm ready, willing, and able to do it. And that's it. That makes my day and makes what I think I do even better.
Yeah, there's one thing talking about kind of relationships, and I'm not, networks and support groups and things, that there's kind of, I love making things as simple as possible. I've learned that over the years we can overcomplicate things, yes. And I love, I think it was some of the NLP, the neuralistic programming training that I've done, and it's kind of just break it down into as very few words as possible, and I think I've certainly found that helps focus the mind. But what you're talking about, and yeah, it is a difficult question sometimes to say what can we do to help, because you go, well, I don't ask for help and I don't need help, and I'm self-sufficient and I help other people and I have the support that I need, and that I see, and again we're talking about boundaries.
Yeah,
I see the friendships, the relationships we have as exchanges. even the mentoring relationships that we have, even the business relationships that we have. You know, I speak to so many people about business, and I see it as that exchange. And it is, I think it is quite a difficult question. I think that sometimes you can see how far people are along with their development.
Yes. Yeah.
And well, their self-development, should we
Right.
say, and their mindset by that question, because, you know, some people say, well, I need this. Can I email you a list of everything that I need over? And you know, part of me thinks, well, why have we got so much there? Are you overextending yourself? Have you got, you know, high expectations and you need the help because you want to reach them? Or is it a case of you don't know where you're going, where you started?
Right.
And it is such a great question. I mean, yes, certainly if you're in the UK, or I'll try and hop over to Europe if you come over. But you're right, LinkedIn it's social media is what you make of it. And I've always said this, and you know, if you don't want to see certain content on LinkedIn, then don't follow that person. I'm not going to name names, so don't push me on this. But there are some wonderful people that I know that I talk to, and I don't like their content. Don't ask me for names. I'm not going to get blacklisted. But you know, and it's just like it's not that I don't like their content, but it's not serving my purpose. It's do I want to say that it's kind of entertainment content, where LinkedIn for me is quite a serious issue, because it's part of my development, and I want to learn. I want to be educated. So it's kind of that kind of exchange, and social media is saying, if you don't want to see, I'm not saying any of my connections are putting these up. If you don't want to see cat videos, we all talk about cat videos, and if you don't want to see them, then don't follow that person.
Right.
You can remove them from your feed. You know, it's that simple, it's that straightforward. But yet we seem to not take the responsibility for it.
Yes.
And you know, we were discussing earlier when I was talking about the book that I've just started, Metahuman, by Deepak Chopra. I remembered his name this time.
Yes, you got it.
You know, and he's talking about so much, and I think this fits really nicely in with development, that, you know, we spend so much of our lives fighting to stop where we are. It's so we don't lose anything. That we forget that there is, you know, I love the title of the book, Metahuman, Beyond Human. It's talking about the future and everything that we can achieve, and you know, and that's what I see development as. And you've mentioned the word a couple of times of evolution. You know, and as a human race, we've evolved.
Yes.
You know, not just we've gone from, you know, living in a cave and being astonished that we can start a fire, and you know, we've gone through farming, we've gone through, you know, architecture, structure of buildings, integrity of buildings, and you know, we've gone through so much, and our opinions and outlooks are changing or evolving all the time as well. You know, and it does fascinate me to think, where are we going to be in 50 years time,
or even 5 years time?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it does fascinate me that, you know, that as a human species we're evolving, and yet as an individual we don't take the responsibility to evolve ourselves a lot of the time. And I'm talking, you know, a majority of the people. Obviously, there are some exceptional human beings such as yourself that do take charge of that personal evolution. You know, and I just think, where could we be as a human race if everyone took responsibility for their own development? And there's a word that I've used that I've kind of had to explain a few times, and it's about human potential. And people have kind of asked me, what do I mean by human potential or individual potential? So I'm going to throw that one at you because it's a question. It's a question that I've been asked a few times.
Okay.
And it's one of those answers for me that keeps evolving as well.
Okay.
So when we're talking about development and we're talking about, I don't want to say reaching potential because that then becomes very limiting in itself because it's something you think you will get to. But I think the stats are that we only use 90%. No, we only use
reverse.
10% of our potential.
Reverse. Yeah.
It's reversed. And sorry, 90% is still untapped.
Right.
So what's the question? What's the question is how would you describe potential?
And that's human potential, not the individual potential. How would I describe?
No, individual within ourselves.
Okay, within
if we were to say, right, I want to fulfill my potential as a human being, or how would you define that question as kind of potential? Would it be something like fulfillment? Would it be happiness? Would it be there's kind of a lot of descriptive words out there, and I know it's all very different for lots and lots of people, and how you define happiness is how do you define success,
right?
They're all very different. I think potential's another one of those, or it potentially is one of those.
Yeah, Greg, it definitely is. So let me try to answer it this way, because I had a group gathering yesterday. It was kind of an impromptu. A friend of mine asked me to speak to her college volleyball team, and you've got an athletic background, so you will definitely understand this, and I'm hoping everybody on the screen, most of you will pick it up. But the thing she wanted me to really talk to them about was potential, and that they were, I'll use the word, squandering, several of them, their potential. They had an opportunity to do some things. They've been gifted. And I think I'm gonna back up a little bit. I think we all have talents and gifts. That's this passion and the purpose. Why am I the way I am? And why am I so different from Greg? Or why am I different from Kelly? Or why am I different from that person? And once you discover it, going back to the light bulb and tapping into that passion, then it becomes a matter of, let's now maximize whatever I have. If it's whatever my gift is, I'm gonna go back to the cooking guy, the guy who wanted to cook. So, and you did it beautifully in terms of, it's not just being that one chef or short order chef, but maybe at a certain point, he's going to look at, okay, I want to own my own restaurant. Maybe I want to own my own chain of restaurants. I get to a certain point, and if you look at some of the guys who are the great master chefs, some of them have done it, and they didn't have that vision at the first, but they go back to that evolving word, keep evolving, and it's like, okay, then what's the next thing? What's the next thing? How can I become better? How can I do this? And so going back to the volleyball team that I talked to, I mean, I try to be a positive guy, and I knew they were squandering. And I said, the thing that that used to concern me the most as a coach was having an athlete who did not try to work on their potential, to maximize their potential. And that was the issue with that particular group of people. And it's like, you've been given this, why would you squander it? And there are people who want to be in the place that you are. If they had the opportunity, they hopefully would take advantage of it. But you've been given this gift, you've been given this opportunity, and now it's a matter of you doing it. Who was it? Someone who's on the screen knows this person. John Maxwell once said, talent is not enough. He wrote a book, and talent is not enough. Once you have the talent, once you realize what your talent is, now there are other things you have to do to maximize that talent, to take it to whatever its potential is. and I'll end with this. I don't know that we'll ever know where our max potential is, but I do think we know when we are not reaching that potential. In fact, sometimes those mentors or the people besides us will help us to realize, hey, there's more for you. There's more that you can do. There's more that you can. And here's what, and I said I was going to finish, but I'm finished with this one. I think it's imperative that as we grow older, that there's more to life to do. There's more potential. When you get to the point where you feel like you've maxed out your potential, then I don't know that that's a great way to exist. And I think there have been people, and there's probably been research done on this, that when they get to that point, and even in their mindset that I can't get any better, I can't do this, they waste away, and they probably go away, leave this earth a lot quicker than they would if they know that there are other things they can do. If there are things they can, I have people in my family who've lived to, I have one uncle, I'll talk about him, who was 102 years old. And one of the things I think that has kept him living and breathing is there are things that he's yet to do or see or eat, because he's a foodie like me, and he enjoys those things. And there's other things, and that may seem like a small thing, but potential in so many different areas. I think it's almost like if you don't max your potential, and if you don't feel like you have any more potential, then what's the use? And I don't ever want to get to the point where it's of what's the use for me. It's like there's more to do, even when I can't do the things you touched on this physically that I could do when I was 20 and 30. There are things I can do mentally now I couldn't do back then. There are things that I've learned that and there's more potential there. And that's that other 90% that you're talking about. I hope I can get to at least 15 or 20 or a little bit more so that I can hopefully get close to my max.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I mean, my brain's just been ticking over, and it's kind of one person I'm absolutely fascinated by is Elon Musk.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah. He's a fascinating guy.
And just to take his mindset. And I think that and we're talking about potential, and we won't get into the hows and whys, but when we're talking about potential, I look at him and go, he's testing his.
Yeah.
How far can I go?
Right. How far can I go?
I think that is a question that I see him asking himself. It's when you hear about the SpaceX and the first failed rocket and the second failed rocket would have potentially if the second rocket had failed, it would have potentially made him bankrupt. He'd put everything into that because, and he talks about, well, life's risk, and if you don't take the risks, you don't get the rewards and things. But part of me thinks that he goes, how far can we go? And I'm not talking about distance to Mars, but it's
right. No. Yeah.
How far can we push life?
Right.
Before life says, no, you're not. You're not doing this.
Right.
And I think that's the only way that you kind of ever really reach your potential.
Yes.
And of course, the other thought that came to mind talking about athletics, and it's kind of and the quote by John Maxwell that that it is hard work. You might not be as clever as the person sat next to you. You might not be able to run faster or shoot baskets better than that next person. But if you keep working hard and hard, there's lots of examples of it.
Yes.
I'm not that up on American sports, so I think, but Michael Jordan was one, certainly Cristiano Ronaldo was one, David Beckham was one. Yes. The stories of Ronaldo and Beckham, they used to be 2 hours before training. And then they'd stop 2 hours after training every single day to work hard to kind of get on. And I've actually got a little bit of a funny story with if you're up on your golf.
I am. And you know,
Yeah, and this is quite an old player, so this
okay.
is kind of like a bit of a niche market. I know a guy who was a professional golfer.
Okay.
He wasn't particularly good. He kind of managed to scratch a living out of it.
Mhm.
And we were sat down the one night having a few beers, and he was quite a few years older than me, 30 years, 35 years older than me. And he was telling the stories about when he played on or tried to get into the PGA Tour and things. And they were going through qualifying school. And he said, you know, we sat there and we'd turn up and we'd get coached on this and coached on that. And he said, and there was one guy, he said, we never saw him do anything other than hit golf balls. We'd turn up for coaching, he was already there hitting golf balls. We left coaching, he was hitting golf balls. We'd go and have a few drinks and then drive back past the driving range. He was in there hitting golf balls. He says, to the point, he said, and he was German. And he says, and to the point, we used to call him the Mad German. Where's the Mad German? Hitting golf balls. Where it turns out he was Bernard Langer.
Oh my goodness.
And he said,
that's in my time frame. Greg,
yeah, that's what I was thinking. I wouldn't be telling this.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
he said, and that guy was Bernard Langer. And he says, and looking back, if we had just copied everything that he did, who knows where we would have been.
Correct.
He said he wasn't the most talented golfer in the world. He didn't necessarily have the greatest flair for the game, but he worked hard.
Yes.
And it was quite funny. We were there going, So you play golf with Bernard Langer? He was like, yeah, no. This is a story about my journey and the lessons I've learned. We're going, yeah, but you played golf with Bernard Langer. You know, and it was just like, but yeah, and they said that they thought he was crazy, the amount of hours and the amount of time. And then he said, and it was the difference between him earning a lot of money, and this other guy that I knew just about making a living. And he said the difference was just hard work and hours.
Wow.
You know, it's such a lovely story. So I remember
it is a great story.
I think we were about 16, 17, 15, 16 at the time, something like that. And when Bernard Langer was I think he'd just gone past the peak of his career, I think. So but yeah, it is hard work. I mean, John Maxwell, has summed it up. You know, you can have all the talent in the world, and if you do nothing with it,
you can do nothing with it. It's such a waste.
So thank you for your time. We're gonna wrap up a little bit, and thank you for your time, Dr. Lawrence. Shall I call you Calvin?
No, Calvin.
And we'll definitely, when you're coming through Europe, because I know you will. I know you're the sort of person that's set out. We'll, come and pick me up, and we'll go and get some food, and I'll take you some nice places. And we can certainly. I know you do motivational talks and speeches and things, and we can try and set some events up or get you into somewhere and kind of combine it. Then people won't complain that it's all pleasure. And,
they won't complain about that part of it.
You're having far too much fun on your trips. But yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Calvin.
Well, thank you so much, Greg. This was a great platform, a great opportunity, and I sure appreciate it. And I've learned so much. There are things that I'll take with me now forward.
Excellent.
Thank you.
That's and thank you to everyone that's kind of joined in, and I'll let Calvin pick up some of the questions, the comments after. I've stopped embarrassing him now. So yeah, thank you so much, Calvin. Thank you for your time.
All right.
And thank you for making it an enjoyable
Great.
episode.
Great. I appreciate you.